pas de soleil, 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 pas de soleil.
Porto or Oporto is the second largest city in Portugal and one of the Iberian Peninsula's major urban areas. Porto city proper, which is the entire municipality of Porto, is small compared to its metropolitan area, with an estimated population of just 215,945 people in a municipality with only 41.42 kilometers. Porto's metropolitan area has around 1.7 million people in an area of 2,395 kilometers, making it the second largest urban area in Portugal. It is recognized as a global city with a Gamma Plus rating from the Globalization and World Cities Research Network. Located along the Douro River estuary in northern Portugal, Porto is one of the oldest European centers, and its core was proclaimed a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1996, as Historic Center of Porto, Luís I Bridge and Monastery of Serra do Pilar. The historic area is also a national monument of Portugal. The western part of its urban area extends to the coastline of the Atlantic Ocean. Its settlement dates back many centuries, when it was an outpost of the Roman Empire. Its combined Celtic-Latin name, Portugal, has been referred to as the origin of the name Portugal, based on transliteration and oral evolution from Latin. In Portuguese, the name of the city includes a definite article, o Porto, which is where its Spanish name, Oporto, comes from. Port wine, one of Portugal's most famous exports, is named after Porto, since the metropolitan area, and in particular the cellars of Vila Nova de Gaia, were responsible for the packaging, transport, and export of fortified wine. In 2014 and 2017, Porto was elected the Best European Destination by the Best European Destinations Agency. Porto is on the Portuguese way path of the Camino de Santiago. History. Early history. The history of Porto dates back to around 300 BC with Proto-Celtic and Celtic people being the first known inhabitants. Ruins of that period have been discovered in several areas. During the Roman occupation of the Iberian Peninsula, the city developed as an important commercial port, primarily in the trade between Olisipona and Bracara Augusta. Porto was also important during the Suebian and Visigothic times, and a center for the expansion of Christianity during that period. Porto fell under the control of the Moors during the invasion of the Iberian Peninsula in 711. In 868, Vamara Perez, an Asturian count from Galicia, and a vassal of the King of Asturias, Leon and Galicia, Alfonso III, was sent to reconquer and secure the lands back into Christian hands. This included the area from the Minho to the Douro River, the settlement of Portugal and the area that is known as Vila Nova de Gaia. Portugal, later referred to as Portucale, was the origin for the modern name of Portugal. In 868, Count Vamara Perez established the county of Portugal, or, usually known as Condado Portucalense after reconquering the region north of Douro. In 1387, Porto was the site of the marriage of John I of Portugal and Philippa of Lancaster, daughter of John of Gaunt. This symbolized a long-standing military alliance between Portugal and England. The Portuguese-English alliance is the world's oldest recorded military alliance. In the 14th and 15th centuries, Porto's shipyards contributed to the development of Portuguese shipbuilding. Also from the port of Porto, in 1415, Prince Henry the Navigator embarked on the conquest of the Moorish port of Ceuta, in northern Morocco. This expedition by the king and his fleet, which included Prince Henry, was followed by navigation and exploration along the western coast of Africa, initiating the Portuguese Age of Discovery. The nickname given to the people of Porto began in those days. Portuenses are to this day, colloquially, referred to as triparos, referring to this period of history, when higher quality cuts of meat were shipped from Porto with their sailors, while offcuts and byproducts, such as tripe, were left behind for the citizens of Porto. Tripe remains a culturally important dish in modern-day Porto. 18th century. By the 13th century, the wine produced in the Douro Valley was already transported to Porto in barcos rebellos. In 1703, the Methuen Treaty established the trade relations between Portugal and England. In 1717, the first English trading post was established in Porto. The production of port wine then gradually passed into the hands of a few English firms. To counter this dominance, Prime Minister Marquis of Pombal established a Portuguese firm receiving the monopoly of the wines from the Douro Valley. He demarcated the region for the production of port, to ensure the wine's quality. This was the first attempt to control wine quality and production in Europe. The small winegrowers revolted against his strict policies on Shrove Tuesday, burning down the buildings of this firm. The revolt was called Revolta dos Borrachos. Between 1732 and 1763, Italian architect Niccolao Nasoni designed a Baroque church with a tower that became its architectural and visual icon, the Torre dos Clérigos. During the 18th and 19th centuries, the city became an important industrial center and its size and population increased. 19th century, the invasion of the Napoleonic troops in Portugal under Marshal Soult brought war to the city of Porto. On the 29th of March 1809, as the population fled from the advancing French troops and tried to cross the river Douro over the Ponte das Barcas, the bridge collapsed under the weight. This event is still remembered by a plate at the Ponte de Luís I. The French army was rooted out of Porto by Arthur Wellesley, 1st Duke of Wellington, when his Anglo-Portuguese army crossed the Douro River from the Mosteiro da Serra do Pilar in a brilliant daylight coup de main, using wine barges to transport the troops, outflanking the French army. On the 24th of August 1820, a liberal revolution occurred, quickly spreading without resistance to the rest of the country. In 1822, a liberal constitution was accepted, partly through the efforts of the Liberal Assembly of Porto. When Miguel I of Portugal took the Portuguese throne in 1828, he rejected this constitution and reigned as an absolutist monarch. A civil war was then fought from 1828 to 1834 between those supporting constitutionalism and those opposed to this change, keen on near absolutism and led by D. Miguel. Porto rebelled again and had to undergo a siege of 18 months between 1832 and 1833 by the absolutist army. Porto is also called Cidade Invicta, after successfully resisting the Miguelist siege. After the abdication of King Miguel, the liberal constitution was re-established. Known as the City of Bridges, Porto built its first permanent bridge, the Ponte das Barcas, in 1806. 3 years later, it collapsed under the weight of thousands of fugitives from the French invasions during the Peninsular War, causing thousands of deaths. It was replaced by the Ponte de Maria II, popularized under the name Ponte Pencil and built between 1841 and 1843. Only its supporting pylons have remained. The Ponte de Maria, a railway bridge, was inaugurated on the 4th of November of that same year. It was considered a feat of wrought iron engineering and was designed by Gustave Eiffel, notable for his Parisian tower. The later Ponte Dom Luís I replaced the aforementioned Ponte Pencil. This last bridge was made by Théophile Seyrig, a former partner of Eiffel. Seyrig won a governmental competition that took place in 1879. Building began in 1881 and the bridge was opened to the public on the 31st of October 1886. A higher learning institution in nautical sciences and a stock exchange were established in the city, but were discontinued later. Unrest by Republicans led to the first revolt against the monarchy in Porto on the 31st of January 1891. This resulted ultimately in the overthrow of the monarchy and proclamation of the Republic by the 5th of October 1910 revolution. 20th century. On the 19th of January 1919, forces favorable to the restoration of the monarchy launched a counter-revolution in Porto known as Monarchy of the North. During this time, Porto was the capital of the restored kingdom, as the movement was contained to the north. The monarchy was deposed less than a month later and no other monarchist revolution in Portugal happened again. The historic center of Porto was declared a World Heritage Site by UNESCO in 1996. The World Heritage Site is defined in two concentric zones, the protected area, and within it the classified area. The classified area comprises the medieval borough located inside the 14th century Romanesque wall. Geography. In 1996, UNESCO recognized Porto's historic center as a World Heritage Site. Among the architectural highlights of the city, Porto Cathedral is the oldest surviving structure, together with the small Romanesque Church of Setefeita, the Gothic Igreja de São Francisco, the remnants of the city walls and a few 15th century houses. The Baroque style is well represented in the city in the elaborate gilt work interior decoration of the churches of St. Francis and St. Clair, the Churches of Mercy and of the Clerics, the Episcopal Palace of Porto, and others. The neoclassicism and romanticism of the 19th and 20th centuries also added interesting monuments to the landscape of the city, like the magnificent Stock Exchange Palace, the Hospital of St. Anthony, the municipality, the buildings in the Liberdade Square in the Avenida dos Aliados, the tile-adorned São Bento railway station and the gardens of the Crystal Palace. A guided visit to the Palácio da Bolsa, and in particular, the Arab Room, is a major tourist attraction. Many of the city's oldest houses are at risk of collapsing. The population in Porto municipality dropped by nearly 100,000 since the 1980s, but the number of permanent residents in the outskirts and satellite towns has grown strongly. Administratively, the municipality is divided into 7 civil parishes: Aldor, Foz do Douro e Nevogilda, Bonfim, Campana, Cida Santo Ildefonso, Sé, Miragaia, São Nicolau e Vitoria, Lordilo do Ouro e Massarilos, Paranos, Ramalde. Climate. Porto features a warm summer Mediterranean climate, with influences of an oceanic climate like the northern Galicia. As a result, its climate shares many characteristics with the warm, dry Mediterranean climates of southern Europe and the wet marine west coast climates of the North Atlantic, providing it warm, dry summers and mild, rainy winters. Cool and rainy days can, occasionally, interrupt the dry season. These occasional summer rainy periods may last a few days and are characterized by showers and cool temperatures around 20 degrees Celsius in the afternoon. The annual precipitation is high and concentrated in the winter months, making Porto one of the wettest major cities of Europe and the wettest major city with a Mediterranean climate. However, long periods with warmer temperatures and sunny days are frequent even during the rainiest months. Summers are typically sunny, with average temperatures between 16 and 26 degrees Celsius, but can rise to as high as 38 degrees Celsius during occasional heat waves. During such heat waves, the humidity remains quite low. Nearby beaches are often windy and usually cooler than the urban areas. Summer average temperatures are a few degrees cooler than those expected in more continentally Mediterranean-influenced Portuguese cities because of the oceanic influence. Winter temperatures typically range between 6 degrees Celsius early in the morning and 15 degrees Celsius in the afternoon, but rarely drop below 0 degrees Celsius at night. The weather is often rainy for long stretches, although prolonged sunny periods do occur. Politics and government. Local election results 1976 to 2021. Demographics. Breaking down the population further shows that there is a higher percentage of females than males. Estimates from 2016 show that the population is 55% female, compared to 45% male. The largest age group, according to 2016 estimates, is 60 to 69, followed by residents in the 50 to 59 demographic. The majority, 93.7% of residents, were born in Portugal. The city also has residents that originally were born in Angola, Brazil, Cape Verde, and countries across Europe. Porto has seen its population climb over the years, and with a thriving economy and a growing tourism industry, the population is only expected to continue to increase in the upcoming years. Economy. As the most important city in the heavily industrialized Northwest, many of the largest Portuguese corporations from diverse economic sectors, like Altri, Ambar, Amorim, Biel, Cerealis, BPI, SIN, EFACEC, Frulact, Lactogal, Millennium BCP, Porto Editora, Grupo RAR, Sonai, Sonai Industria, and Unicer, are headquartered in the greater metropolitan area of Porto, most notably, in the core municipalities of Maia, Matosinhos, Porto, and Vila Nova de Gaia. The city's former stock exchange was transformed into the largest derivatives exchange of Portugal, and merged with Lisbon Stock Exchange to create the Bolsa de Valores de Lisboa e Porto, which eventually merged with Euronext, together with Amsterdam, Brussels, LIF and Paris Stock and Futures exchanges. The building formerly hosting the stock exchange is currently one of the city's touristic attractions, with the Salão Árabe being its major highlight. Porto hosts a popular Portuguese newspaper, Jornal de Notícias. The building where its offices are located was up to recently one of the tallest in the city. Porto Editora, one of the biggest Portuguese publishers, is also located in Porto. Its dictionaries are among the most popular references used in the country, and the translations are very popular as well. The economic relations between the city of Porto and the upper Douro River have been documented since the Middle Ages. However, they were greatly deepened in the modern ages. Indeed, sumac, dry fruits and nuts and the Douro olive oils sustained prosperous exchanges between the region and Porto. From the riverside quays at the river mouth, these products were exported to other markets of the Old and New World. However, the greatest lever to interregional trade relations resulted from the commercial dynamics of the port wine agro-industry. It decidedly bolstered the complementary relationship between the large coastal urban center, endowed with open doors to the sea, and a region with significant agricultural potential, especially in terms of the production of extremely high-quality fortified wines, known by the world-famous label port. The development of Porto was also closely connected with the left margin of River Douro in Vila Nova de Gaia, where is located the amphitheater-shaped slope with the port wine cellars. The city is very much the gateway to Portugal's northern region as well as the northern and western areas of Spain. Within a 2-hour drive of Porto's airport there are 4 UNESCO World Heritage Sites and popular Spanish tourist hotspots such as Santiago de Compostela. In a study concerning competitiveness of the 18 Portuguese district capitals, Porto was the worst ranked. The study was made by Minho University economics researchers and was published in Publico newspaper on 30 September 2006. The best-ranked cities in the study were Évora, Lisbon and Coimbra. Nevertheless, the validity of this study was questioned by some Porto notable figures who argued that the city proper does not function independently but in conurbation with other municipalities. A 2007 ranking published in Expresso ranked Porto as the third best city to live in Portugal, tied with Évora and below Guimarães and Lisbon. The Porto metropolitan area had a GDP amounting to $43 billion and $21,674 per capita. Tourism. Over the last few years, Porto has experienced significant tourism increases, which may be partly linked to the Ryanair hub at Francisco de Sá Carneiro Airport. Porto won the European Best Destination 2012, 2014 and 2017 awards. The city received 2.8 million overnight visitors and 1.4 million day trippers between January and November 2017, with 73% from other countries. Tourism revenue has been increasing by over 11%, according to a 2018 report. According to a February 2019 report, over 10% of economic activity in Porto is generated by tourism. The hotel occupancy rate in 2017 was 77%. A scholarly study published in June 2019 stated that Porto is one of the fastest-growing European tourist destinations that has experienced exponential growth in the demand for city break tourists. Transport, roads and bridges. The road system capacity is augmented by the Via de Cintura Interna or A20, an internal highway connected to several motorways and city exits, complementing the Circunvalação 4-lane peripheric road, which borders the north of the city and connects the eastern side of the city to the Atlantic shore. The city is connected to Valencia by Highway A28, to Estarreja by the A29, to Lisbon by the A1, to Bragança by the A4 and to Braga by the A3. There is also an outer ring road, the A41, that connects all the main cities around Porto, linking the city to other major metropolitan highways such as the A7, A11, A42, A43 and A44. Since 2011, a new highway, the A32, connects the metropolitan area to São João da Madeira and Oliveira dos Meios. The Dom Luís I Bridge is a double-deck metal arch bridge that spans the River Douro between Porto and Vila Nova de Gaia. Built in 1876, its 172-meter span was then the longest of its type in the world. The top level is used for the Porto metro trains, with an option for pedestrians. The lower level carries traffic and pedestrians. During the 20th century, major bridges were built. Arabida Bridge, which at its opening had the biggest concrete supporting arch in the world, and connects the north and south shores of the Douro on the west side of the city, S. João, to replace D. Maria Pia and Freixo, a highway bridge on the east side of the city. The newest bridge is Infante Dom Henrique Bridge, finished in 2003. 2 more bridges are said to be under designing stages and due to be built in the next 10 years, one on the Campo Alegre area, nearby the Faculty of Humanities and the Arts, and another one in the area known as the Maçarilos Valley. Porto is often referred to as Cidade das Pontes, besides its more traditional nicknames of Cidade Invicta and Capital do Norte. Cruising. In July 2015, a new cruise terminal was opened at the port of Leixões, which is north of the city in Matosinhos. Airports. Porto is served by Francisco de Sá Carneiro Airport, which is located in Pedras Rubras, Moreira da Maia civil parish of the neighboring municipality of Maia, some 15 kilometers to the northwest of the city center. The airport underwent a massive program of refurbishment due to the Euro 2004 football championships being partly hosted in the city. Public transport. Railways. Porto's main railway station is Campana Railway Station, located in the eastern part of the city and connected to the lines of Douro, Minho and center of Portugal. From Campana Station, both light rail and suburban rail services connect to the city center. The main central station is São Bento Station, which is itself a notable landmark in the heart of Porto. This station was built between 1900 and 1916, based on plans by architect José Marques da Silva. The large panels of azulejo tile were designed by Jorge Calaco. The murals represent moments in the country's history and rural scenes showing the people of various regions. Porto is connected with Lisbon via high-speed trains, Alpha Pendular, that cover the distance in 2h42 minutes. The intercities take slightly more than 3 hours to cover the same distance. In addition, Porto is connected to the Spanish city of Vigo with the Celta train, running twice every day, a 2h20 minutes trip. Light rail. Currently, the major network is the Porto Metro, a light rail system. Consequently, the Infante Bridge was built for urban traffic, replacing the Dom Luís I, which was dedicated to the light rail on the second and higher of the bridge's 2 levels. 6 lines are open. Lines A, B, C and E all begin at Estádio do Dragão and terminate at Senhor de Matosinhos, Póvoa de Varzim, ISMAI and Francisco Sá Carneiro Airport respectively. Line D currently runs from Hospital S. João in the north to Santo Ovidio on the southern side of the Douro River. Line F, from Senhora da Hora to Fanziers. The lines intersect at the central Trindade station. Currently, the whole network spans 60 kilometers using 68 stations, thus being the biggest urban rail transit system in the country. Buses. The city has an extensive bus network run by the STCP, which also operates lines in the neighboring cities of Gaia, Maia, Matosinhos, Gondomar and Valongo. Other smaller companies connect such towns as Pacos de Ferreira and Santo Tirso to the town center. In the past, the city also had trolleybuses. A bus journey is €2, which must be paid in cash. Trams. A tram network, of which only 3 lines remain, one of them being a tourist line on the shores of the Douro, saw its construction begin on the 12th of September 1895, therefore being the first in the Iberian Peninsula. The lines in operation all use vintage tramcars, so the service has become a heritage tramway. STCP also operates these routes as well as a tram museum. The first line of the area's modern tram, or light rail system, named Metro do Porto, opened for revenue service in January 2003. Porto public transportation statistics. The average amount of time people spend commuting with public transit in Porto, for example to and from work, on a weekday is 47 minutes. About 6.5% of public transit riders ride for more than 2 hours every day. The average time people wait at a stop or station for public transit is 12 minutes, while 17.4% of riders wait for over 20 minutes on average every day. The average distance people ride in a single trip with public transit is 6 kilometers, while 5% travel for over 12 kilometers in a single direction. Culture. In 2001, Porto shared the designation European Culture Capital with Rotterdam. In the scope of these events, the construction of the major concert hall space Casa da Música, designed by the Dutch architect Rem Koolhaas, was initiated and finished in 2005. The first Portuguese moving pictures were taken in Porto by Aurélio da Paz dos Reis and shown there on the 12th of November 1896 in the Teatro do Príncipe Real do Porto, less than a year after the first public presentation by Auguste and Louis Lumière. The country's first movie studios Invicta Films was also erected in Porto in 1917 and was opened from 1918 to 1927 in the area of Carvalho. Manuel de Oliveira, a Portuguese film director and the oldest director in the world to be active until his death in 2015, was from Porto. Fantasporto is an international film festival organized in Porto every year. Many renowned Portuguese music artists and cult bands such as GNR, Rui Veloso, Sergio Godinho, Clá, Pluto, azeitonas and ornatos violeta are from the city or its metropolitan area. Porto has several museums, concert halls, theaters, cinemas, art galleries, libraries and bookshops. The best-known museums of Porto are the National Museum Soares dos Reis, which is dedicated especially to the Portuguese artistic movements from the 16th to the 20th century, and the Museum of Contemporary Art of the Serralves Foundation. The city has concert halls such as the Coliseu do Porto by the Portuguese architect Cassiano Branco, an example of the Portuguese decorative arts. Other notable venues include the historical São João National Theatre, the Rivoli Theatre, the Batalla Cinema and Casa da Musica, inaugurated in 2005. The city has the Lelo Bookshop, which is frequently rated among the top bookstores in the world. Porto houses the largest synagogue in the Iberian Peninsula and one of the largest in Europe, Cadore Synagogue, inaugurated in 1938. Entertainment. Porto's most popular event is St. John on the night of the 23rd to the 24th of June. In this season it's a tradition to have a vase with bush basil decorated with a small poem. During the dinner of the great day, people usually eat sardines and boiled potatoes together with red wine. Another major event is Queima das Fitas, which starts on the first Sunday of May and ends on the second Sunday of the month. Basically, before the beginning of the study period preceding the school year's last exams, academia tries to have as much fun as possible. The week has 12 major events, starting with the monumental Serenata on Sunday, and reaching its peak with the Cortejo Académico on Tuesday, when about 50,000 students of the city's higher education institutions march through the downtown streets till they reach the city hall. During every night of the week a series of concerts takes place on the Queimódromo, next to the city's park, where it is also a tradition for the students in their second to last year to erect small tents where alcohol is sold in order to finance the trip that takes place during the last year of their course of study. An average of 50,000 students attend these events. Porto was considered the fourth best value destination for 2012 by Lonely Planet. Arts. Porto was the birthplace in 1856 of Susana Ropa Dockery, an Anglo-Portuguese watercolor painter who produced many paintings of the city and the people and landscape of the surrounding rural areas. An Englishman, Frederick William Flower, moved to Porto in 1834 at the age of 19 to work in the wine trade and subsequently became a pioneer of photography in Portugal. Like Dockery, he drew his inspiration from the city, the Douro River and the rural areas. In 2005, the municipality funded a public sculpture to be built in the waterfront plaza of Matosinhos. The resulting sculpture is entitled She Changes by American artist, Janet Eckelman, and spans the height of 50 times 150 times 150 meters. Architecture. Due to its long history, the city of Porto carries immense architectural patrimony. From the Romanesque cathedral to the social housing projects developed through the late 20th century, much could be said surrounding architecture. Porto is home to the Porto School of Architecture, one of the most prestigious architecture schools in Europe and the world. It is also home to two earners of the Pritzker Architecture Prize, Álvaro César Vieira and Eduardo Souto de Moura. This historic area includes the cathedral with its Romanesque choir, the neoclassical stock exchange and the Manueline-style Church of Santa Clara. The entire historic center has been a national monument since 2001 under Law No. 107/2001. The historic center of Porto, Luís I Bridge and Monastery of Serra do Pilar, is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Gastronomy. Porto is home to a number of dishes from traditional Portuguese cuisine. A typical dish from this city is tripas à moda do Porto. Bacalhau e gomes de sá is another typical codfish dish born in Porto and popular in Portugal. The francesinha is the most famous popular native snack food in Porto. It is a kind of sandwich with several types of meat covered with cheese and a special sauce made with beer and other ingredients. Port wine, an internationally renowned wine, is widely accepted as the city's dessert wine, especially as the wine is made along the Douro River which runs through the city. Education. The city has a large number of public and private elementary and secondary schools, as well as kindergartens and nurseries. Due to the depopulation of the city's interior, however, the number of students has dropped substantially in the last decade, forcing a closure of some institutions. The oldest and largest international school located in Porto is the Oporto British School, established in 1894. There are more international schools in the city, such as the French School and the Deutsch School, both created in the 20th century. University. Porto has several institutions of higher education, the largest one being the state-managed University of Porto, which is the second largest Portuguese university, after the University of Lisbon, with approximately 28,000 students and considered one of the 100 best universities in Europe. There is also a state-managed polytechnic institute, the Instituto Politécnico do Porto, and private institutions like the Lusíada University of Porto, Universidade Fernando Pessoa, the Porto's Higher Education School of Arts and a Vatican State University, the Portuguese Catholic University in Porto and the Portucalense University in Porto. Due to the recognition, potential for employment and higher revenue, there are many students from the entire country, particularly from the north of Portugal, attending a college or university in Porto. For foreigners wishing to study Portuguese in the city, there are a number of options. As the most popular city in Portugal for Erasmus students, most universities have facilities to assist foreigners in learning the language. There are also several private learning institutions in the city. Sport. Porto, in addition to football, is the home to many athletic sports arenas, most notably the city-owned Super Boc Arena, swimming pools in the area of Constituição, and other minor arenas, such as the Pavilhão do Académico. Porto is home to northern Portugal's only cricket club, the Oporto Cricket and Lawn Tennis Club. Annually, for more than 100 years, a match has been played between the Porto Club and the Casuals Club of Lisbon, in addition to regular games against touring teams. The club's pitch is located off the Rua Campo Alegre. In 1958 and 1960, Porto's streets hosted the Formula 1 Portuguese Grand Prix on the Boa Vista Street Circuit, which are reenacted annually, in addition to a World Touring Car Championship race. Every year in October, the Porto Marathon is held through the streets of the old city of Porto. Football. As in most Portuguese cities, football is the most important sport. There are two main teams in Porto: FC Porto in the parish of Campana, in the eastern part of the city, and Boa Vista in the area of Boa Vista in the parish of Ramalde, in the western part of the city, close to the city centre. FC Porto is one of the Big Three teams in the Portuguese League, and was European champion in 1987 and 2004, won the UEFA Cup and Europa League and the Intercontinental Toyota Cup in 1987 and 2004. Boa Vista have won the championship once, in the 2001 season, and reached the semi-finals of the UEFA Cup in 2003, where they lost 2-1 to Celtic. Formerly, Salgueiros from Paranos was a regular first division club during the 1980s and 1990s, but, due to financial indebtedness, the club folded in the 2000s. The club was refounded in 2008 and began playing at the regional level. They now play at the third level of Portugal's national football pyramid. The biggest stadiums in the city are FC Porto's Estádio do Dragão and Boa Vista's Estádio do Bessa. The first team in Porto to own a stadium was Académico, who played in the Estádio do Lima. Académico was one of the 8 teams to dispute the first division. Salgueiros, who sold the grounds of Estádio Engenheiro Vidal Pinheiro Field to the Porto Metro and planned on building a new field in the Oca d'Água area of Porto. Located a few hundred meters away from the old grounds, it became impossible to build on this land due to a large underground water pocket, and, consequently, they moved to the Estádio do Mar in Matosinhos. For the Euro 2004 football competition, held in Portugal, the Estádio do Dragão was built and the Estádio do Bessa was renovated. Basketball. The FC Porto team plays its home games at the Dragão Caixa. Its squad won the second most championships in the history of Portugal's first division. Traditionally, the club provides the Portuguese national basketball team with numerous key players. International relations. Porto is twinned with Liège, Belgium, since 1977. Bordeaux, France, since 1978. Bristol, England, UK, since 1984. Vigo, Galicia, Spain, since 1986. Nagasaki, Japan, since 1978. Crotone, Italy, since 2010. Jena, Germany, since 1984. Macau, China, since 1997. Duruelo de la Sierra, Castile and Leon, Spain, since 1989. Bangkok, Thailand, since 2016. Brno, Czechia, since 2004. Shanghai, China, since 1995. Beira, Mozambique, since 1989. Recife, Brazil, since 1981. Luanda, Angola, since 1989. Nevis, São Tomé and Príncipe, since 1987. Ndola, Zambia, since 1978. Conchungo, Guinea-Bissau, since 2001. Klaipėda, Lithuania, since 2007. Mindelo, Cape Verde, since 1992. Leon, Castile and Leon, Spain, since 2001. Marsala, Italy, since 2016. Notable citizens. Alexander Quintanilla, scientist and member of parliament. Almeida Garrett, notable writer, theater director and liberalist. Álvaro Siza Vieira, architect. André Villas-Boas, football manager. Antonio Nober, poet. Antonio Pinho Vargas, composer. Antonio da Silva Porto, Portuguese trader and explorer in Angola, in the Portuguese West Africa. The town of Cuido, founded by the Portuguese and named Belmonte at that time, was renamed Silva Porto. Antonio Soares dos Reis, sculptor. Armando de Basto, painter. Artur Loureiro, painter. Brás Cubas, Portuguese explorer, colonial administrator and founder of Santos in Brazil. Bruno Alves, footballer. Charles Albert of Sardinia, Italian monarch. Claudia Pascual, musician. Daniel de Fonseca, Jewish physician. Diogo Jota, footballer for Liverpool FC. Diogo Vasconcelos, politician and social innovator. Duarte Coelho Pereira, Portuguese nobleman, military leader, colonial administrator and founder of Olinda in Brazil. Duda, footballer. Eduardo Souto de Moura, architect. Estevão Gomes, also known as Esteban Gomez and Estevan Gomez, cartographer and explorer. He sailed at the service of Spain in the fleet of Ferdinand Magellan, but deserted the expedition before reaching the Strait of Magellan, and returned to Spain in May 1521. In 1524 he explored present-day Nova Scotia sailing south along the Maine coast. He entered New York Harbor, saw the Hudson River, and eventually reached Florida in August 1525. Because of his expedition, the 1529 Diogo Ribeiro world map outlines the east coast of North America almost perfectly. Fernão de Magalhães, the globe circumnavigation navigator, probably born in Porto, but surely lived and studied in this town. Francisco Laranjo, painter. Francisco Sá Carneiro, former prime minister. Francisco Vieira de Matos, painter. Freitas Magalhães, psychologist and scientist. Guilhermina Sagia, cellist. Henrique Hilario, Chelsea Football Club goalkeeper. Jorge Nuno Pinto da Costa, president of FC Porto. José Pacheco Pereira, politician, professor and political analyst. Julio Diniz, doctor and writer. Calza de Arriaga, general of the Portuguese army. Manuel de Oliveira, film director. Mary of the Divine Heart, Countess Drost zu Vischering and Mother Superior of the Good Shepherd Sisters Convent. Miguel Sousa Tavares, writer. Monica de Miranda, visual artist, photographer, filmmaker, and researcher. Pedro Abrunhosa, singer-songwriter. Pedro de Escobar, Renaissance composer. Pero Vaz de Caminha, wrote the letter Carta do Acamento do Brasil, announcing the discovery of Brazil. Prince Henry the Navigator, responsible for the early development of European exploration and maritime trade with other continents. Ramalho Ortegão, writer. Raul Meireles, footballer. Richard Zimmler, novelist. Rosa Mota, marathon runner, Olympic gold medalist. Rui Reininho, singer. Sarah Sampaio 1991 supermodel. Sofia de Mello Brainer Andreessen, writer. Thiago Monteiro, racing driver.